Hello everybody, it's Matt with Traction Powersports here in Midland, Michigan. Today I'm going to show you guys how to assemble a KFI or open trail plow system. This is going to go for any of the UTVs or ATV assemblies. This is also going to be for anything with a poly blade or a steel blade. So as we get going with the setups, I'm going to be walking us through a few things that we have. Today we're going to be doing the poly 72-inch steel blade for the UTV along with the push tube setup. The push tube part number that we'll be working on is a 10-6300, and this plow poly blade that we'll be working on today is a 10-5872. Inside of the boxes, when we get these things opened up, I'll show you what we'll end up having inside of here. With the poly blades are really nice because they actually come with your plow flap, and then they also come with your plow markers, which is a huge benefit. So yes, they do cost a little bit more money. However, they do come with a few more things. The poly blades also allow for a few bonuses for that being said. If you get a poly blade that helps with the snow not stick to it as much, also prevents it from corroding over the years. And they are just a little bit lighter. They're still all metal frames, so they have really good frame working and stuff. On there, it's just the main blade itself is a poly blade, so that helps save a little bit of the weight. But again, like I said, the biggest highlight is the snow not being able to stick to the plow. So once you open up the poly blade, inside of it, whether it's an ATV or UTV blade, KFI did a really good job of making sure that you have pretty much everything with it being their highest end setup, which will be your plow markers. These are straight markers. We also sell the angled ones. So even if you guys need any parts, accessories, or added stuff, let us know. We'll be happy to get that stuff drop shipped right to you. Usually only takes a couple days. And then inside of here, and this stuff is all parts that you can add to your unit if you have anything broken or you need parts. So inside of here, you'll have your skid shoes. You'll also have a holder piece with your flap with the bolts on it. So once I get this out, this flap will actually just set down there. The metal bracket will hold it down, push it in between, nut and bolt in there, and then obviously just your base instructions. Now, most of the time with these manufacturers, they have their product registration sheets in there. They give you a 2-year limited manufacturer warranty. And they also give you a very nice parts list breakdown. So if you have any issues, you're missing any parts, components, you're going to want to make sure that you come inside of here, verify everything that you have is correct to the outlay, and they'll also show you how to install this. Again, in this video, we'll be walking you through step by step how to make sure that you can properly assemble your blade. I'm going to get everything on package. I'm going to do a parts count, make sure I have everything the way that I need. I'll cut you guys back in for the assembly. All right, guys, so we're back. We got the plow system all on box. We're getting ready to start assembling this blade setup. What's nice is it's already mostly assembled. The scraper bar on this is already pre-installed, and the carriage bolts are already torqued down. So right now we're going to install 9 carriage bolts across the top of here. You'll see, make sure that the inside, which would be your plow side, is the way that our carriage bolts are going to go in, and then we'll end up having our rubber flap, and then we'll end up having our bar that'll hold down. So it's not too terribly hard. We'll just want to make sure that we get our flap set into place, and there's kind of a lip that it'll set into, and then we'll make sure that we have a flap. Now on the flap, I'm going to set that right there. On this metal bar, there's going to be a piece where it's kind of bent. Just make sure that the bend goes towards the blade, and that'll help this flap basically roll over towards the front side of the blade. So we want to set it this way. If you set it this way, it would leave some gap here, so it would allow that flap to move. It can be done that way, but the correct way is to make sure that it's installed this way to help that flap angle towards the front side of this blade. So we'll go ahead and set that one there. Carriage bolt. And then we're going to have a washer and 11mm nut. So this guy sets in. Just do both outsides first, and then you can work your way towards the other ones. So as they go in, everything should line up pretty nicely. And then your washer, and then 11mm nut. That'll go, and then we'll just put them all in, all the way down. Cut it on, and then, all right, so now that we have all of our 9 carriage bolts inside there, we got our washers, our nuts. We're just going to use, if you want to hand do it or take a impact and do it, just make sure that you use a light one. You do not have to turn and just ream these things right down. They do have a lot built into the nut, so you don't need a crazy amount of torque on it. Just 2 uggas, 1 dugga. Okay, and then after that's set on there, I like to go back through and just kind of hand feel them. You'll feel some that'll take just a little bit more than what you put on them and like a light. Well, this way you can just secure them and know that you got about the same torque across the board. Now these do not have a manufacturer torque spec on them, so you don't have to worry about pulling out a torque wrench, but okay. So now that the flap is installed, the bolts are tightened down across the back side of that. So now what we're going to work on is the skid shoes. Skid shoes have a assembly instruction sheet, again also on the main format. So what we would be looking at, to give you a little bit better idea, is all of these shims that's in here. And the way that you're going to want to shim this, and you're going to want to find out if you're installing it for yourself or a client, is how do they expect to be plowing? Are they going to be plowing on gravel, sand? Are they going to be plowing on pavement, that sort of thing? But that's going to determine how you're going to want this wear bar to hit. So if you're going to be plowing on, say, pavement and stuff, you're going to want this wear bar to be touching before these skids would be hitting the ground. If you are not plowing on pavement or concrete, you're plowing on sand or grass, gravel, any of those, you want these skids to be hitting the ground first. And it's going to determine, like if you're plowing on gravel, you want more gap in between this skid and the ground, because there could be a lot of dips and angles, so you don't want this wear bar to be digging into the ground and causing chunks and damage to your machine or your equipment. So you want to make sure that this stuff is set up properly, and that's exactly what these shims are telling you to do, kind of how to stack those on the bottom or on the top. So if you have more shims stacked on the bottom, that would then pull this guy down, which then would raise the blade off the ground. More of these shims are stacked on the top, would then be raising this up, so then your wear bar would be hitting the ground. Now, you do not even have to have these on if you're just plowing concrete or pavement. You can just go ahead and leave those right off. But for most sakes of people, they plow on multiple different things, so you're going to want these to be on your unit. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to mount these on the back side of here. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to make sure in the instructions where it says notch to the bottom of the plow. So the way that these are, because this does have an offset to it, so if you put them on this way, it won't line up correctly on the KFI plow. So the notch, there's a cutout, might be kind of hard to see, but right here at the bottom, we're going to mount these towards the bottom side of the plow setup, and each one of these is a hardware kit for the left or right side. Doesn't matter which side you want to put on what. There's, you know, it does have a left and right side, but it's not correlated where you're going to get things mixed up. So 2 sets of hardware, your bushings, you're going to have your key that's going to hold the top. So main things here, side, and some of this we're going to have, well, we don't need that set. Two bolts, 2 nuts, and then we'll take this guy here, and we're going to bolt these right onto the plow setup itself, and you can see kind of on the picture how this is going to look. So I'll make sure I grab our correct sizes here, and we're just going to come around to the back side, and some of this forward, set this on its face. It's easier to work on. And again, the notch down towards the bottom, so that's going to bolt just like that. So I'm going to go ahead and get this bolted on each side, and then I'll show you guys how to slide in the shoes and adjust those for what we're looking to do for this client. All right, so now that we got our mounts on here, our next thing to do is then to go back onto our skid itself. The proper way to assemble this, you're going to take 1 washer, you're going to drop it down there. After that's dropped in there, you're going to take a plastic bushing, and this is where you would be setting up. Now we're going to set this up for a stock setup, which the way that this will do is this will actually set and give us about a 1/4 inch gap on a stock setup, which would be good for, you know, most gravel driveways, that sort of stuff. So take our second bushing. We're going to take our remaining washers. We're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to have 5 washers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then there's going to be 3 washers left. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to put those 5 washers in here. We're going to slide this stack in. Again, if we want to lower this, what we could do is we could actually remove X amount of washers and pull this down to here. We could remove shims, put them up top here, and what that'll do is that'll change our depth position. So right now, again, we're setting it up for a standard like gravel multi-use driveway. So one washer, your two plastic spacers, 5 washers, 3 washers on top, and then after those 3 washers are set up, we'll just end up taking this clip and sliding this guy inside of here to finish locking it into place. So now these guys might slide in a little tight. I'm going to grab a little hammer just to finish tapping this guy in. Doesn't need to be anything crazy, but a tight fit is a good fit. Alrighty. So we got that set up, and then we're just going to repeat the process. 1 washer, 2 plastic stacks. We're going to count 5 washers, put those back on there again. sure these pins are secured. These ones are a little bit tighter than usual ones. So when these clips actually go over, they'll snap into place like that. But these ones are really, really tight, which that's a good thing. There we go. So now those guys are in and we're set up here. So I'm going to get this plow stood right back up. Then we're going to go ahead, we're going to get the markers on it. And then from there, we'll end up getting our mount put on. So now we're on to the next step. All right, guys, so now we're ready to go ahead and final step to finish assembling our plow itself is to put on our plow marker. So the plow markers, when you put these guys on, one side of these usually has a little bit deeper dish. I like to put that deeper dish part in the inside. Now, if your plow setup does not have these pre-cutouts, say you're working on a completely different manufacturer, usually then up top, you would get these that they would have a 90 degree, so it'd come down and then come back this way, and it would end up bolting into that hole. So then your plow marker would set here. But since this blade setup is set up for a straight plow marker, we're going to go ahead and assemble these on this guy. So inside of the kits are already going to come with all of your nuts, bolts, washers. So you're going to have 4 washers, 2 nuts, 2 bolts. So you're going to put a washer on your bolt side. We'll slide that guy through here, slide that through, put a washer on the back side, and then our nuts. So bolt, washer, marker, plow setup, washer, nut. So on the top side of this, it's kind of nice. It does give you a good allowable adjustment. So after this is actually tight, you could set your angle that you want this to be, which is actually kind of neat, because a lot of them, you get into and the marker is completely off, so you're out there trying to bend this to get it to a good angle that you want. So the way that I usually set these up until they are bolted on the machine and I do my final adjustment, I'll take and I will lightly, I don't want that one. Let me make sure. Okay, so we just want to slightly lighten up the bottom one, tighten up the bottom one, and then same thing on the top one. Doesn't need to be super tight, just barely snug, and then once we get it on the machine, we'll do our final adjustment where we want it to be at, and then we'll finish doing our final tight torque down on that. So I'm going to repeat the process on the other side, and then I'll get the push tubes out, and we'll get that assembled and then attach them to the blade itself. All right, so we went ahead and flipped the blade up and around. We got our push tube out here. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get this guy assembled onto our blade. Again, the process doesn't matter what blade that you guys choose. This process is going to be the same. So the first thing that we went ahead is laid out all of our bolts out of our hardware kit. We've confirmed everything along with our instruction sheet. Inside of here, so you guys get kind of a really good idea. What we're going to be doing is with our push tube, we're going to push it into our plow. From there, we're going to have a couple washers. One's going to have a cutout in it. This indentation is going to go towards the push tube, so there's going to be a cutout inside of the blade down at the lower portion. So when I slide this guy up, we're going to put our bolt through here. We're going to have this cutout. It's going to set inside of there, and then we're going to have our 24 millimeter nut and a large washer. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get this guy slid up here, and you guys can see what the process is. So once you slide your washers in there, it'll take all of the play out. So you're not going to have a lot that you're going to have to do there. So I just go ahead and lightly tighten up that guy, and then we'll go to the other side, and we're going to do the exact same thing. Now, most of this job, some things it makes it easier with 2 people, but everything can be done with 1 person. So we're going to slide our bolt in there. Again, our big washer with the cutout, it's going to go in there. So you can see all the play right there. That's going to take all that play right out. So on this step here, once you get these slid in, you can actually go ahead and tighten these right up. This is not going to matter on the side of, you know, having to wait. Most of the time you want to lightly assemble everything before, you know, go ahead and torquing everything down. But this is one step that you can go ahead as soon as you put your nut and bolt on this side, you can go ahead and just snug these right down. After I get these snugged down, we'll go ahead and install our springs. I'll show you guys that next step. All right, so for this next step, we're going to go ahead and we're going to set the angle for the plow. On both sides of the push tube and on the blade, you'll see there's these kind of cutouts right here. And then you're going to have 6 different holes inside that you're going to want to set the angle. So more that you take and you push this guy forward, more angle that you're going to put on here. The default setup is actually going to be the top center hole. That's going to be the one that they recommend right from the manufacturer. So this is going to be the Allen was a 3/8 for this with a 16 millimeter nut. So we're going to go ahead, put in our Allen bolt, and then we're going to set our nuts side of here. This does not have any washers. This, again, is something that you can go ahead and just tighten up. Now, once you get plowing, this is something that you would want to either yourself or let your client know that they can adjust this. Most people will for their standard setup, but right now we're going to go ahead and just set this up for standard usage. And then as they are using the plow setup and knowing if they want more forward push on it, more back, that's going to be how much you really want that snow to kind of roll over the front, or if you kind of want a more stand up straight push. The difference would be how heavy the snow that you're looking to move would be. If it's, you know, really wet, heavy stuff, you would want kind of something that wouldn't flip as much, so you'd want a more straight up, versus if it was light and fluffy, you would want something that might roll a little bit more, push it forward. So just depending on what your plow setups are, how you're going to want that snow to come off on your blades. So now that these guys are set up, we're going to go ahead and we're going to set up for the springs. This next step is a very important process. This is something that goes along with the forward angle on this, because again, this is something that you're going to set up for. If you're driving and you hit, let's say, a curb or a pothole, or you hit a really hard chunk of snow or ice, how fast this blade is going to flip. And that's going to determine how much damage that could be done to your unit that you're plowing with, or your blade setup, that sort of thing. So I like to set them up on a little bit on the looser side, just because I'd rather them fold faster than come to a more sudden stop and cause more damage. So with this setup process, it's actually pretty simple to do, and again, you can actually adjust this on the fly. So the first thing that we're going to end up doing with this is on these set of nuts, and run these guys right down. We're going to have a washer, and then you're going to have another washer and another bolt. So again, the first thing we'll do both of these simultaneously, so they're done together. So the way I like to start them is, again, push these all the way down on both, so we know that they're basically at a 0 point. The next thing is our washers. There's 3 holes that you can use on these. So these are going to run from here to here. There's going to be cutouts that these guys are actually going to set and go through. And then what we're going to do, and you can kind of see now, once these other washers are on here, this will set our tension. So once this guy is on here, how much tension we actually want on this blade setup. So the first thing that we're going to do is just go ahead and put a spring in there. Next step is going to be this guy, and then we're going to pull this up to our hole, and then once it's pulled up into the hole wise, then we'll set our washer and our other nut. So I'm going to get a spring set up on the other side, then I'll get those in, and I'll show you what it looks like here in just a second as I start making my final adjustment. Okay, so as we're sliding these guys in, these guys come up, slide this, washer. Now, you just kind of want to, get it to where it will start coming up. So on both sides, doesn't have to be anything, too crazy, but we'll want this to just start sliding forward. I like to put it where it's a couple teeth down just to get it to start. Once this process is done, on here we'll set the tension for the springs. So I'll go ahead, I'll get this guy on, and then I'll show you what it looks like as I'm setting the tension. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and set our spring tension on here. So since we got both of these just started, what we're going to do is just start tightening this up. And the way I like to do this is I'll tighten this up until you can start to see gaps in between the springs. So right in there is a pretty consistent even gap all the way down. I'll look at the thread count, and you can either count your threads coming down, or you could take a measurement on it, which usually a measurement is usually the fastest way. So what I would measure is from the nut to the top of the bolt itself, and then we'll mirror that measurement with the other side. So everybody's measurement is going to be different on how you're going to pre-set up your plow, to what angle that you set it up for, going forward. So again, the tension is pretty important, because that's going to be how much tension before this thing gives away. Okay, so now that our measurement's the same, we're going to take our bottom bolt. We're going to screw this right back up, and then we're going to set it as a lock washer, or as basically locking it. So you might have to get two, wrenches here in just a sec. We'll see how easy this snugs down. But usually what we'll do is we'll force that guy up, and we'll take this one and just set that final lock like that. So That's pretty snug. You don't have to reef these things down. Nothing has to be crazy over torqued. We're just setting a nice consistent tension on it. Now the good news is you get out and you want more tension on these blades. Again, this is just kind of a standard setup. So if this thing folds a little bit too easy for you and you say, well, I want more, you got all sorts of adjustments to really put a lot more tension on these springs. So if it folds too soon for you, just go ahead and loosen both these up, tighten these bolts down, put more tension on it. If you want to loosen up the tension. If it's too tight, loosen them up and add less up here, more on the bottom. That'll collapse the spring a little bit more. So now since we got our springs on, our forward adjustment set on side of there, our carriage bolts holding it down to the frame, the final step is to actually put on the mounts themselves. And then from here, how do you want to lift and lower this unit? So some of them are going to come with a standard clevis like this that would actually just get bolted right to this unit, and then your cable will actually just come and pick this straight up from here. We are actually adding a roller kit on here, and they make 2 roller kits. That's going to be a very specific item depending on if you have a synthetic or a steel cable. But that roller is going to go here, so as that cable comes down, it's going to go around the roller arm, which then will come back up to the machine and allow a lot more lift height than trying to pull straight back on that winch cable, and that causes a lot more stress versus when the roller's there. It's really easy for it to lift and lower, and you almost never ever break your cable end hooks and stuff. So I highly recommend that setup. So I'll show you guys how to add that there. Let's go ahead and let's look at our mount for our next step. So inside of here, we got a few bolts left. Now these bracket arms are 100% exact match, so it doesn't matter left or right side that you guys are going to bolt that on there. We're going to have three nuts and 3 bolts for each side. So we're just going to take one of these, and this guy's going to line up pretty easy. So you're going to see these guys will mount exactly right there for our pins to go through onto our mount. So I'm going to go ahead, start bolting these on, and then I'll show you what it looks like. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get these mounts on here. So these guys go in. Again, they're only going to go on one way. You want to make sure that they are on the outside because they won't bolt on the inside. So we'll go ahead and get that started. Then on the next side, after we get these, all right. So these are tightened down. They were 14 millimeter nuts, 14 millimeter bolts on there. So let's go ahead just double confirm the tightness on them. Alrighty, so those are nice and torqued down there. So the next step is we're going to go ahead, because this system we're going to be installing a roller fair lead. With this, we can still install this mount just to give, you know, the client or yourself a dual option. The way that this guy would be set up inside of here, I can bring this bracket over. You can install it in either position A, which would be straight up, or position B, which would be straight down. So I actually like to, when I put these on, bring this guy back. Let's fold this right forward here. There she goes. And then we can get to the brackets from the bottom side. So we'll go ahead and put this on. Now, if you want it to look nice and clean, I would recommend you to put them in from the top going down. Both of our nuts. And then these are going to be 14s as well. So once you get these guys tightened up, then we would go ahead and install the next setup. So which I will show you. And again, when you're looking, even inside the assembly instructions, upon ordering this stuff, it'll tell you which part numbers to order to make sure that you have it set up for the correct plow system. So if you got, again, a steel cable or a synthetic cable, if you call us, you know, and you order your parts from us, then we will make sure that, you know, you have exactly what you need. But if you're just ordering from, you know, some random company online, you want to make sure that you have all of the correct stuff. So, you know, just make sure that you do some research on it before you order the final system. So I'm going to get this other one tightened down, but the part number that we're going to need next is going to be, will be for a standard plow pulley for a synthetic cable. And then if you don't have a synthetic cable, and then that would be the additional part number that you need. But so okay, so you've seen how the setup, if you're just going to run the standard winch operation, I went ahead and pulled the nuts back off. So we're going to take this guy off from here, since we are doing the pulley setup, and we're going to set our pulley exactly in the same spot, okay, with the opening facing up. So we're going to go ahead and set that guy down on there. You can use, because this is a cutout, they give you universal bolts and stuff. But because this guy is already pre-cut out for this, you can actually use these slotted bolts if you want inside of there, because they are pre-fitted for it. But these ones will have to come up if you plan to use these this way. So we'll end up getting these guys torqued down here. So once these are in, the next step is going to be to get this guy, your pulley, inside of here, and then your pulley. This guy has a washer. So this is exactly how your setup's going to be right here. This guy you are going to have to take on and off. So what I do recommend is to go down and get yourself a clevis pin that'll go through, that'll hold this so you can take it on and off, so you can put your cable on and off from here without always tightening up this nut and bolt every single time that you want to put your plow on and off your machine. It just makes it a little bit quicker and easier. Or you can go ahead and stay with the stock setup. So this is exactly what you would end up looking like. So I'm just going to go ahead, tighten up these last bolts on this, and then this unit is ready to be bolted on the machine.